Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating question from Unix and Linux Stack Exchange. What does supports DRM functions and may not be fully accessible mean for SATA SSDs? It's a bit of a technical deep dive, but stick with us, it's really interesting.
I'm eager to hear this. So, supports DRM functions. I'm guessing it's not about preventing me from watching movies illegally, right?
Exactly. In this context, DRM stands for something completely different. It's not digital rights management. It's related to a feature of the ATA protocol, the communication language between your motherboard and the SSD. This extension lets the SSD respond differently based on whether a request is signed by the Trusted Platform Module, TPM, on the motherboard. Think of it as a security handshake.
A security handshake? Interesting. So how does that impact accessibility?
Well, it allows for scenarios where only verified software can access the data. Imagine specialized hardware, like a video player, that only unlocks the content if the software hasn't been tampered with. The kernel, seeing this, warns you that Linux might not have a complete view of the SSD because of this security feature. It's a precaution, not necessarily a problem.
I see. So it's a security measure that might limit what the operating system can directly see on the drive. Makes sense. What about the other message? Read cache, enabled, doesn't support DPO or FUA.
That one's a bit simpler. The read cache enabled part is straightforward. Your SSD uses a faster memory buffer to speed up repeated reads. It's a common optimization for SSDs. But DPO and FUA, those are legacy commands from the SCSI world, designed for spinning hard drives. They're meant to bypass the cache, but they're not relevant for SSDs. The message simply indicates your SSD doesn't support these outdated methods, which is perfectly normal.
So essentially, the first message is about a security feature that might limit access, and the second is just saying the drive uses modern caching techniques and doesn't need those old commands? Got it.
Precisely. It's important to note that these messages are relatively new, appearing in more recent kernel versions. They're informative, not necessarily indicative of a problem. Unless you're working with specialized hardware that relies on these specific DRM functions, you likely won't notice any difference in everyday use.
That's reassuring. Thanks for clarifying. So in short, nothing to worry about unless you're doing something very specific.
Exactly. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.